Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, where two busy dads get games to the table by any means necessary. Check us out, along with other great podcasts, at dicetowernetwork.com.
Every Night is Game Night, episode 101, Gen Con Reviews, Part 1, featuring dice and card games under 30 minutes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Every Night is Game Night. This is Anthony, once again with Jason.
Yo, my peoples, what's up?
Alright guys, we have part 1 in an epic 6-part series, probably longer, of Gen Con Reviews, starting now.
Wow, you actually just went in there and told people that for the next 6 episodes we're just going to be talking about a face full of games.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying though. It could go longer because maybe something more comes up. You never know, right?
Yeah, so normally we'll have a couple of games and a discussion, or we'll have an interview or whatever. But Anthony and I were talking before the call. There are so many games that come out of Gen Con. It's every year, right? And there's more and more every year. But I think we both agree that this year, maybe as opposed to previous years, like are a lot of like solid games, like, games that are for somebody, or games that are, would be a good part of a game night or whatever it is. It's like a bunch of solid games. Like, we've been playing them and working through them, and not a lot of lemons in there, are there?
Yeah, it's a funny thing because, Chris and I just had our episode last week where we talked about Gen Con and saying, and we recorded that the morning after, and we were like, well, it's not as exciting as it has been in the past. There was no like big, massive mega hit that really drove everybody around, but
except for Keyforge. Well, the Keyforge announcement, I think, was the
announcement. I mean, and like the handful of people who managed to get decks that they're scalping on eBay for $100. But on the flip side, what you have is a bunch of games. The medium level of games is a higher quality this year. And that's one of those things you won't really realize till after the show, once you sit down to actually play everything, which is what we're currently doing. And I've been pleasantly surprised thus far. Like, I think I was telling you before the show, I looked back through all my Gen Con acquisitions last year to see what I kept, and it was less than 10. It was like maybe 20% of what I brought home stayed on my shelves.
You brought home like 30, 40, something like that?
I don't remember. A lot. Like, too many. And it was, and then, not all of those went away right away, but slowly but surely they pared them down. And they weren't all bad games. They just didn't really necessarily find a place on my shelf. But, I'm 3 weeks in after Gen Con, and I'm pretty sure I'm keeping at least as many as last year, and I've only played, a quarter of what I brought back. So it's, I think it's going to be a much better year, at least in terms of the quality of what I have and I'm playing. But, we'll see over the next few weeks as we review these.
Sounds like we might have to make a discussion topic out of just curating a collection. I don't think we've really talked about that. We both have, at this point, kind of big collections. Like, we can put a camera in front of our shelves and the games are all in the camera. I think every content creator has to have that as like a rule. So,
yeah.
We can both do that. So like maybe kind of talking about how we keep games. But anyway, we have so many games to talk about. Like Anthony said, the episode kind of grew into like 6 parts, so to speak. We're going to go from lightest to heaviest. So partly because it gives us a chance to kind of catch up and we can play lighter games easier, but also to kind of keep things organized. So we're not just like throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall. You can go on a journey with us, from the very, very lightest games to the heaviest games. But first, we actually have 2 items of business that I wanted to take care of before we get to the meat of the show. The first is a follow-up from episode 100. If you listen to that episode, you will have heard a bunch of clips from gamers, from designers, publishers, all sorts of people in the board gaming verse out there. I got a late submission. I perfectly understand. Gen Con was right around the time we recorded that episode. Very, very busy, and publishers are busy in general. But I wanted to take the time to read the late submission because I really appreciate following through. So this is Michael Coe of Tiny Epic fame, Gameland Games. He says, "I'm thankful for camaraderie that exists among designers and publishers. Unlike normal industries, the competition isn't hostile towards one another. The unique environment encourages creativity and fosters rapid growth. And we all want more awesome games, right?" I completely echo that sentiment. so many good vibes around the show. We are not in competition with one another. Even Albert and Julius over at One Player Podcast, we have a lot of overlap with them. And there's some other folks in the Dice Tower as well. We could all overlap. We're all competing for space, mind share. We're all competing for review copies and, all that sorts of stuff. But it's not a problem. Like, we all love each other and we can all appear on one another's shows. So thank you very much, Michael, for that clip and echoing that sentiment. And good luck with Tiny Epic Mechs. I'm really looking forward to checking that one out. The second item of business we are going to take care of is Liz. Yes, Liz is back with In Liz We Trust. She is here to share about another Kickstarter project for you to consider.
Hey gamers, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I'm here to encourage your Every Night is Game Night acquisition disorder. This week, I want to talk about Hellenica, Story of Greece, a civilization game in which you control one of several city-states and vie for power and influence throughout the Greek world. There are also several different areas of your civilization to focus on, so you can choose to be warlike, peaceful, pious, philosophical, or a number of other things in your quest for greatness. Some draft rules are available online, and there is definitely an AI deck that can be used to control the movements of multiple non-player city-states. However, a full game of Hellenica consists of 7 city-states, so I'm really interested in seeing just how complex that AI is, especially since a solo player would be handling all of the upkeep. At $90 for the base game, the price for Hellenica is steep. The history buff in me is hopeful, but I have not yet taken the plunge on this one. Happy gaming.
All right, that was the future, and this is the present. We have a bunch of games on the slate that we are going to talk about this week, all on the light side. You can check the timestamps to see which ones we're going to talk about. Let's just dive in right now. I am going to start with probably the lightest. Anthony, have you had a chance to play this one?
Trainmaker?
Yep.
Yeah, I have had a chance to play this.
Yeah, you can literally learn this game in about 5 minutes and just get it going. So we're going to start with the lightest of the light. So this is Trainmaker. This was designed by Chris Leader. Chris Leader, not the Leader Games person. This is a different person. This was a release. It was a Kickstarter that was released by Green Gnome Games. But then AEG picked it up and decided to give it a wider release. So we're reviewing the AEG version. But we are going to reference the previous version for it, and you'll see why in a second. So this is a very light dice rolling game, 1 to 6 players, takes about 15 minutes to play.
At the most. Yeah.
At the at the most. So I mean, really, so it's a rolling game, and you're going to see it sets a theme. We have a lot of dice games that are coming up for you. So these dice are custom. So they're going to have a different faces on them. So you have your locomotives faces and you have your caboose faces. And you're building sets of stuff. So you're going to roll, and you're just going to build trains. And if hopefully you match symbols effectively and you're able to collect cards from the middle of a tableau. And if you collect the most cards, you win. Or if you collect a certain amount of cards, if you meet a personal goal. So okay, you're going to get 3 cattle car trains, or you're going to get 3 coal trains, or whatever it is. That is it. There's a couple of other wrinkles, but really, this game is super simple. The solo mode, which is what kind of Anthony and I kind of looked at it and go, oh, maybe this is worth it for us. It's a timer. So the bot kind of collects those cards as you go, just automatically. It doesn't even interrupt you. It doesn't interrupt your rolling. It doesn't do anything. It just sets a timer for the game. So if you're looking at this game for solo, I think it's a pass. I think, games that just don't do anything to you, they're just timers. The solo mode is actually new to the AEG version. It was not in the previous versions. Felt like it was kind of thrown in there. Don't even look. What I will say about this game, a Trainmaker, by the way. What I'll say about Trainmaker is, it's super light. There's nothing really to it, but I work as a therapist. And I work with some people who have, who struggle, who have challenges, with some sickness and early dementia, and, different things that they struggle with. And it's really helpful to play games with them. It's helpful to play the kind of mass market-y type stuff, which you're going to get sick of. Let's play Yahtzee again. You can actually take this game and put it into that context and have a decent time. So I have played this game in therapy, and the person had fun. They're instead of rolling the numbers or whatever it is, It's like, oh, I'm rolling locomotives, and it's intuitive, right? You know, the engine dice face goes first, and you have to make your symbols, and you have matching colors, and you have to put the caboose at the end. And if you bust, you bust. And you move on to the next person. And everybody understands busting because you played Yahtzee before. That's what you're here for. You're here for a light, family, fun filler. I mean, I don't think there's too much else to say about it. I mean, I know I may be, you know, by calling something light and fillery, it sounds like an insult. I'm not insulting this game. Like, it's not something that is like resonant with me, but it fills a role. Like, if you're tired of playing Yahtzee with your grandma, try this one and it might work.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liked it. I agree on the solo mode. It is somewhat, I'm not going to say pointless necessarily, but like you said, it's a timer. Problem with that timer is that it's random. So
super random.
You're like, if it was an actual timer, whatever, there's games with timers and they're fine. But in this case, it is completely random. So it might pull everything it needs in 4 cards. And then, of course, you're going to lose. Or it might take 15 cards. And then, of course, you're going to win. And what's the fun in that? But I do agree. It's nice, accessible, easy to play. My kid picked it up pretty quick. So, yeah, I like it.
Yeah, there's your previous version. There's actually a little bit more. Like, there's like a little mini expansion, and you can do more with the cards that you collect. In the older version, AEG just went, you know what, this is a family game. It's very simple, and this is what you get. For what it is, I think Anthony and I are both on the same page. We can recommend Trainmaker. This next game, I'm going to throw it over to Anthony. I laughed because we did the episodes on Roll-and Rights a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, oh, no one's going to listen to this. Who's going to listen? No, it blew.
They're hot right now, man.
It's
They're
super hot. It was like it reached, it got to our threshold of listeners just like really, really fast. I'm like, what is going on here? So guess what? Anthony has another one for you right now.
Yeah. So this was actually one of the hottest games of Gen Con because Simon brought it in, and it was an early release. I don't think it hits regular store shelves for a few weeks, and they sold it out pretty quick. People were upset about that. It's called Railroad Inc., and it comes in 2 versions. There's I don't remember the nomenclature they use, but there's red and blue, basically. So think of like your Pokemon. And the base idea of the game is the same in both versions, but they each come with 2 different mini expansions. So there's 4 total mini expansions, plus you can combine both versions of the game and play double the players. Because like any roll and write, the actual number of players is infinite, except for the number of sheets that you have. And this game uses laminated sheets and pens, unlike like a Welcome To that has a big pad of 100 sheets where you could literally play 100 people if you wanted to. This isn't quite there. Game is very simple, like any roll and write. You have a map in front of you. It's full of little squares on a hex, and you will, as a group, roll 4 dice every turn. Everybody has to draw all 4 of these dice somewhere on their map. So think of like Karuba, where that tile comes out, everybody has to place that tile, and yet somehow everybody ends up with a different set of tiles on their map, despite the fact that they all have the exact same situation to work from. This game you were drawing, however, and you're going to be drawing roads and railroads. And the roads and the railroads need to connect to different exits on the map. You get points based on how many exits each total connected route touches. You also get points for the longest road, the longest railroad, the most up to 9 points for having things in the middle of the map. And you play this over 7 rounds. It's really, really quick. You roll the dice roll the dice 7 times. Everybody draws them. You move on. The more people you have, the longer it takes because there's always one person you're waiting on. But still, it should be a 15-minute game tops. The expansion stuff is pretty cool. There is in the blue version, you have water-themed expansions. So you have canals as a third type of route, or you have lakes where you can ferry things back and forth and connect routes from across the water. In the fire version, you have a volcano and magma or lava that flows, and you get bonus points based on the largest lava flow. Or you have meteors, and the meteors will break your routes, but they also have special bonus points if you have a route that goes into it and successfully gets things out to an exit. So 4 different kind of tweaks and different ways to play the game, which is pretty cool. I like this one quite a bit. It's not mind-blowing or revolutionary compared to other roll and writes. It's pretty much in the ballpark of everything I talked about in that last episode in terms of you roll the dice, everybody makes the same decision with those dice, and then you compare notes at the end and see what everybody did. The big issue with this game, I think, for a lot of people coming into it is the fact that there is it's all the same information. Everybody has the same stuff. So I know some people don't like that. I remember the first time I played Karuba, I didn't like it either, but it kind of works. I've yet to see anybody even remotely come close to drawing the same thing. And then if you're playing it solo, it doesn't matter. So you're just playing by yourself. So there's no one to copy. And in that case, of course, like in any roll and write, you're going for a high score. The cool thing about the solo mode is that you do mix in the expansions as you wish. You have a lot of different ways to play the game. So it's not just one game where you max your score out and then you don't really want to play again. Like Gan's Shown Clever, which is one of my favorite roll and writes in the last few years. But once you hit 300 points as solo, you're like, I have no reason to play this ever again. So
I will say though, first of all, an excellent app, like a really underrated, just kind of snuck in there, and wow, I'm playing this a lot. I think so the way to get 300 in Gone Shown Clever, which I cannot believe I'm into this game. I can't do it. But Anthony talks so highly about it that I had to get in, and it's actually really fun. So it's actually kind of solvable in a sense. So like you know what to, you rolling dice, but you know what to fill and everything. So once you solve it, it's like, okay, fine. I could see people drifting off, but I kind of enjoy trying to, because it's not just like automatic. You have to actually roll and make decisions and everything. Like I kind of want to do it again.
It's super addictive. I'm still playing it. It's just not quite as obsessively as I was when I was first playing it.
But it's a roll and write. How long are obsessions going to last with roll and writes, for crying out loud?
Exactly. And the thing is, it takes 5 minutes, and it's the same thing with like a Railroad Ink. My major issue with Railroad Ink is that you have to draw, and I can't do that very well, so it just looks like this big sludgy mess of pen on my sheet. And so when like other people look over my shoulder, and they're like, "Is that a road or a railroad?" I'm like, "Pretty sure it's a railroad." And they're like, "You pretty sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure." I'm going to score it as a railroad. So playing solo, you try to be careful. I want to get an accurate score. But I mean, overall, I really like these. You don't need to buy both at all. Like they're not withholding some of the game from you. The game is, I think, $20, which is comparable to all the other ones. It comes with all the pens. Everything's laminated, so you can reuse them. Again, unlike a lot of the other ones, production quality is nice here. And I think it'll do well. I don't think it's in the upper echelon of the best roll and writes, whatever that means, but it's really solid and definitely worth checking out. All right, so that's Railroad Ink, designed by Hjalmar Huck and Lorenzo Silva. And it came from Horrible Games, so you know those guys from The Potion Explosion and Dragon Castle.
Cool. All right, so the next one we are going back to regular old dice games. This is Istanbul, the dice game. So Istanbul was designed by Rudiger Dorn, published in the US by AEG. Yes, Istanbul is the version of Istanbul that of the board game. So Istanbul is actually an app. If you're curious about that, the regular Istanbul, it's actually pretty kind of a slick app. I'm not the biggest Euro fan, so I'm not into it too much. But if you want to get a sense for what we're talking about here, that's a good one. It's a pretty standard Euro. I mean, you're doing Euro things. You're merchant at the bazaar. You start with a couple gold coins and a dream. You turn those gold coins into silk. You turn those silk into jewels. You turn those jewels into points. And you're just kind of going back and forth and doing that. That's and there's a spatial element to Istanbul, the board game, which makes it worth playing. The dice game, it doesn't really follow up on the board game, but it does in terms of the theme and the motif and the look. It definitely does. You are definitely starting with very few resources, maybe like a coin or two, and a couple of dice, and you're gonna roll them. And they're custom dice. What they do is they have gems and they have the silk and they have coins, more coins. You're rolling them and you're transferring them for more stuff and more stuff and more stuff. Eventually, the thing that you're gonna want is gems. And how the gems work in this game is that they're on a central board and the board has tracks. So let's say you want to buy a gem that's on the money track. So you can buy the first gem for 10 gold, the next gem costs 12, the next gem costs 14, the next gem costs 16. So you're arcing up in play. You have to constantly, manage your resources and get more stuff quickly, learn those combos. And the sources of combos, two sources of combos really. One are these tiles. So the tiles give you powers, they give you another action or they give you some rerolls or something. So you have to, make sure you have enough of those in order to be able to do a thing. The other thing it has, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about this one, Anthony, because this is where I got stuck with the game, were these cards. So The cards is another symbol on the dice. You can roll cards, and you lift them up, and you get a thing. You either get spice resources or gem or rug resources or whatever it is. Fine, but some of the cards, holy moly! Some of these cards you can, like, if you have 2 wild resources, which are the little crate things, you get 2 more things, and if you don't get it, you get a coin. If you have 3 wild resources, you get 4 things. If you don't have, you get a coin. Like, it's very lucky in that way. So, like, if you happen to have the resources on hand for some of these cards, you get all this good stuff. And if you don't, you get a coin. And a coin is nothing in this game, or barely anything. Positives, it does the resource management thing very, very well. I think it was actually kind of fun to, like, build up my resources and, look for inefficiencies. So, like, if people are going for a certain thing, then just, like, change up your strat. Like, if they're going for the rugs and they're cleaning it out, then go for this other track, go for pineapple or fruit or something like that. Try to go there. It gives you a chance to kind of flex. The powers are fun. The rerolls are fun. All that stuff is fun. It's just that one thing for a kind of tight Euro-y experience to have that element of swinginess in here. I saw Rado's review. That was his problem with the game. And I'm like, oh, he's probably just, no. That man speaks the truth. That's why he kind of moved on from the game, and I think that's where I'm going to land on this one. It's still solid though. What you played it? What do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I like the game quite a bit, but the cards are an issue. When I bring it out to game night, I make sure to explain to people. I show them all the different cards and what they can do, and say you probably want to keep an inventory of stuff because if you don't, the cards are kind of useless. I feel like cards are designed in a certain way where they had to make it this way, where you drew them and either used them or didn't. But it would be so much cooler if you had a way to keep the cards and use them when you could actually use them, right?
Yes.
Like spend resources to activate things. I don't know, something else. Because it is frustrating if you roll a whole bunch of cards on your dice, don't have any rerolls, have to take those cards, and then whatever card maybe you draw 3 cards and you can't do anything with any of them, you get a coin out of that. And that's your turn. Like, that stinks.
It's really bad.
And even, like, there are certain situations where maybe you get some card income, and that's not so bad because then you have several different rounds in which you're drawing a card and it's just extra. But yeah, like, when it wastes a turn, that's rough. The mosque tiles are much more powerful. You can work towards them. You're picking what you want. You are building an engine and a tableau in front of you, which is great. I love that. And yeah, the cards do make the game swingier than I feel like it should be, but it is dice, so maybe that was the intention. It's hard to know. But yeah, I like this game. I'm keeping it still, but it is tough. I've had some negative reactions at the table because of that.
There is a solo mode, a custom solo mode by, let me give the proper credit, Slawek Wichowski. Oh man, I hope you're not a listener. Sorry about that pronunciation. Pretty clever little solo. It's 10 rounds. And they basically just get as many gems as you can. The end of the game is usually just get 6. But in this one, it's just kind of like in 10 rounds, get as many gems as you can. You get like, it gives you like a free, moss tile per round. So you get like powers and stuff like that. But no, it's just a rush to get stuff. And it obviously, like any good bot, kind of takes gems off the board every round. That was really solid, a really fun way to learn the game. I don't know if it's the best version of the game, but it's a solo variant, a fan-made solo variant that unlocks what could be a fun game for a solo play. So I definitely want to applaud that. But yeah, I think, again, solid, fun. If you like Euro dice, there aren't that many Euro dice out there. Like genuine resource management. I think La Granja No Siesta is one. I'm not coming up with a lot. This one fills that need if you have it. It has an issue though, so I can't give it a wholehearted recommendation, but still, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's funny because most Euro players aren't big into dice, so I think like having a small market like this works.
But I think the where this fits is if you're a Euro player and you don't have any players around you and you want to teach people Euro stuff. That's the point. I know you don't. I know you've played a lot of Monopoly, you've played a lot of Scrabble, but I want you to play my games. Here's an introduction to the types of games I play that somebody might actually be into. So I can trade resources, and everybody understands dice, and as that gateway to a bigger thing, I think this has a pretty good niche. All right, that was Istanbul, the dice game. What is next on our list? Oh, okay. We actually have a comparison over here. So these were 3 dice games, and we're going to end the episode talking about some card games. These next 2 games are palm games. Games you play in the palm of your hand. And I'm going to throw it over to Anthony now for the first one, which is not coincidentally titled Palm Island.
Yes. This one is very much matches the name of the game. This is actually a game I had a chance to play way back before the Kickstarter. The designer, John Meatling of Portal Dragon, he sent a copy over when it was back in prototype stage, and I got a chance to try it out and was quite impressed with it. So early review, I do like it. And it is, as you might imagine, very simple. The whole idea of here is you have a game you can play in the palm of your hand. You don't have to put it on the table. The game comes with 2 decks, so you can play it alone against someone to see who gets the high score. There's a cooperative mode as well, where you're fighting off these different challenges like volcanoes and hurricanes that might happen on your island. But the basic idea of the game is that you are using actions in the cards. You always have 2 cards in your hands, 1 in each palm, and the deck will be in your left or right hand, I guess, depending on which hand you prefer. And you will then try to upgrade these cards in certain ways. So at the start of the game, there are 17 cards. Some of them have free actions. There are several different types of actions. You can turn them to the side to activate resources that you can then use later. When you do that, you put the card in the back, facing sideways, and then you'll be able to spend that when you need it, and you turn it back up. You can flip it upside down, and then you have a new ability. Next time it comes up in the deck, you can flip it over, even more powerful ability when it comes back around. And the basic idea here is...
You're doing a lot of card turning in this game. Like a lot of, I think there's 8 possible things that you could do with those cards.
Yeah, it's a ton of stuff. So every card has 4 faces. Some of them have things on them, some of them don't, but there's a lot of different ways you can kind of utilize these different things. So you have resources, obviously, the first thing, and there's wood, stone, and fish. And then you're trying to get up enough resources and kind of build up an engine where at the beginning you're always going to get 1 fish or 1 wood, and then suddenly you can activate stone. Then suddenly you can get things that have 1 fish and 1 wood on it. And the reason this matters is you can only store 4 cards at a time, turn sideways. You can't just stockpile resources and then buy a big card. If you do too many, you have to start discarding them. So you do this, you go through, and then the end of round card comes up, and you flip that, you turn it, you flip it again, you flip it, you turn it again. There's 8 rounds. And so it has the 2 sides on it, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in parentheses 5, 6, 7, 8. The game, I don't know, maybe takes 15, 20 minutes. It is designed for solo play. If you're playing with someone else, you're kind of playing like a modified solo. It comes with a lot of cool stuff out of the box. So you have feats that you can mix in there that give you bonuses. So first time you score 30 points, you get a feat card, adds a bonus that you can start the game with this bonus. That then makes it a little bit easier to get a higher score. And then maybe the next time you get 35 points and you've unlocked, level 3 on 5 of your cards. Now you get another feat and you kind of level up your deck. And by leveling up your deck, you can continue to do that. It's just like an achievement system, which is pretty fun. It also has the cooperative mode, which you can play solo, of course, and go up against these, powerful things that are going to try to destroy you, like volcanoes. And there's also characters that you can pick up, and these again are part of some of these cards are specifically for competitive play because they kind of hurt each other, but a lot of them can be played solo as well. So it's a really quick, fun, I liked it a lot game back when it first hit my table, about a year ago, and I'm glad it finally came in. I think there's 2 versions. I think you can get it just straight regular deck of cards, or there's a plastic version. Which
Yep, plastic cards.
Slips around in your hand a little bit, but it also makes it easier to turn those cards when you're, storing them and flipping them around.
Makes it easy to bring to camp.
Yes. Yeah, you can't destroy them, which is nice. And this is the kind of game you want to do that with. That's the whole point is this is definitely a game I'm always going to have in my pocket at conventions. It'd be perfect for lines. It's great if you're camping and you don't want to bring any of your cardboard out of the house and, put it through the elements. It's like the quality of stuff that you'll see in a chip theory game. You can't really destroy these, which is nice.
Yeah. So we are going to compare this to Maiden's Quest, which is a palm game, a very different Palm game. So it is no surprise if you are at all a listener over 100 episodes to me and Anthony that Anthony is reviewing the Euro style Palm game and I'm reviewing the adventure style Palm game. So although Anthony has played this, so
yes, I have played both.
I like to have fun, and I have played Palm Island, so I like to have fun. But like so we're going to talk about both in the context of each other because people are curious. Okay, so Maiden's Quest. This is designed by Ken Shannon and published by WizKids, my friends over at WizKids. Again, like Anthony was saying, primarily a solitaire game. Another game in which you're kind of turning cards and flipping cards, and the cards have like a billion things on them, and they all do different things depending on how they're facing. It's just a deck of cards. The motif of the game is really cute. You are a maiden that has been trapped in a dungeon, and you have decided to take matters into your own hands. There are saviors, quote unquote, that are trying to save you, but they're kind of bumbling. They could do as much harm as good, so they're like cards in the deck that do stuff. But for the most part, you are the hero of the story, and you are going to bust out of wherever the dungeon is, and it's all modular. So like you can choose your different maidens. Like there's different maidens with different powers. You can choose your starting gear. You could be the the really aggressive maiden with like a mace and a flail, or you could have like slippers or hairnet, and they all do different things. Like you might have something that gives you strength or something that gives you charisma or whatever. You can choose the enemy. You could also choose your dress. Your dress gives you buffs, so apparently. So I think there's all really cool motifs type stuff. The actual mechanic of the game is that you're going to go through, and if you get good stuff, it's fine. But if you encounter a monster, you fan the 5 cards that are behind it, and you match symbols. So like the monster will have symbols. It'll say, okay, 2 charisma in order to beat it. And then you look at your symbols in the back, those 5 cards that are behind you. You see if you have your 2 charisma. If not, you might have some powers that kind of let you draw again, or search deeper in the deck, or maybe flip monsters. So like, let's say you have a monster in your hand, you could flip it out, and now I'm fighting this one now, which has 2 swords, which I happen to have 2 swords. So lots of opportunity to feel clever. Like that's what you want out of a card game, right? Especially any game I think should make you feel clever. I think that's a Dukes of Dice thing. But this game really does. Like, it makes you feel pretty clever. Like, you have tools. And that's pretty amazing in, like, a little package like this. And it kind of gives you that sense of adventure. You're improving your cards. You want that sense of improvement as well. So, like, you can, you turn your cards a certain way, and now all of a sudden you have the good thing. And you get hurt. That means you turn your cards another way, which means it's the damage side. So you're going to go through this, just like Anthony was saying. There's a round end card that comes up like 8 times. And you don't have to, like, you can actually keep on going, but at a certain point you're going to meet that big bad, and you're just not going to be able to withstand it. You have to get in there and kill her. You can also find exits. There's all sorts of stuff that you can do. But that's the basic game. So I like this game. I like this game better than Palm Island just as a game experience. Palm Island I found to be just resource management-y. Which, is something that I enjoy. As a game experience, I found this a lot more like engaging. The theme is so cute. The little jokes in there are cute. The clever little combat system is fun. Where I'm going to land though is that what Anthony was saying, how he can keep Palm Island in the palm of in his pocket and just whip it out during cons. For a Palm game, this is not a game that you can just kind of take to a con. You have to build the deck. It means it has a pretty long setup time and a pretty long breakdown time for like a little game. Like you're gonna have to. It's almost like breaking down Marvel Legendary, where if you put the deck together, like kind of custom put it together, but then you got to break it all apart. And you can't just like do that satisfying thing you could do with solo games where you just like play a game, then play another game, then play another game, boom, 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 boom. Especially on apps, you can do that all the time. But like in Palm Island, you can just like shuffle the deck and start again. This one, you have to deconstruct it, reconstruct it, deconstruct it, reconstruct it. So it's a thing to remember. Like if you're going to make a Palm game, I think that should have been could have been part of the calculus of it. That's my criticism of the game. But like in terms of an actual gameplay experience itself, I really enjoyed it, and I'm keeping it. I'm happy to play it. I'm happy to beat all the bosses, beat all the hard bosses. I don't do that with every game. I'm going to go back. It just has that one issue, and that one issue is where Palm Island, for me, will leap ahead of it in terms of the portability of it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because this game was a pain in the butt to learn, to set up, to
Yes.
play.
Yes.
I played it a couple times and I just put it away because I was like, oh, this is like it's a 15-minute game. It's taking 20 minutes to set it up. This is stupid. Like,
it's a bad problem. Like, and learning it, the fanning is not very intuitive. The symbols are somehow not intuitive, and you've already spent 20 minutes setting up. So like when you spend that long setting up a game, you get that feeling in the back of your head that you did it wrong, and that inhibits your fun while you're playing a game, and you kind of trips you up in learning it. So I could definitely see where you're coming from.
yeah, there's a weird learning curve for this game because it doesn't feel like it should have one. There's also a bit of luck there too. I feel like you can just slip right past the stuff you need over and over again, which is frustrating to say the least.
Well, is the luck more than a card game? Like card games have luck, and like any solitaire game, like they have luck. And like I know, we kind of talk back and forth like, oh, this game is too lucky, not too lucky, and that's a subjective line. So obviously my line was a little bit more generous with this because I found the experience to be satisfying. Like I acknowledge the luck is there, but I found the overall experience satisfying enough where I was a little bit more forgiving. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's harder because when you can see all the cards that are there and you know that the order that they're in and you're like, unless this card comes out that lets me move some stuff around, I'm screwed next time. So I don't know. I'm not saying I dislike the game. I do like the game quite a bit. I do like Palm Island better, but I wanted to like this one more because like you said, it has more theme, it has more content, it has more stuff going on. It's a really cool idea. I like the little tiny cards much better. They fit in my hand nicer. So, although I'm fairly certain if you played this a lot, they'd get decently destroyed shuffling them all the time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it hasn't quite clicked with me yet. I don't know.
I mean, this one has 160 cards in the box, and you only play with like 35 of them, 40 of them. So there's a lot of variability. I mean, it's a plus and a minus, right? So variability is usually good. Like we say, it's variable, it has room for expansions, that's all good. But I think in this particular realm, we're talking about a portable game, and you're talking about a game that you could take anywhere, and that's a selling job. We take out a lot of the strategy. This is not a heavy strategy game. This is a very, it's quite a lucky game. You could fly through all your good stuff and then hit an enemy and there's just nothing but enemies in your fan and you can't do anything with it. You're done. Like that's possible. So I can forgive that if, I can just play again. But no, I can't kind of just play again. I have to reset it up and everything, and with different, and with different ladies. And I didn't even mention like there's co-op rules, but like and competitive rules. But like Anthony was saying, this is a solo game with like stuff tacked on. Like that's what it is. Liz would kill me if I did not mention this because I know she did a review and she loved this part. It has like a legacy-ish component too. So like if you play with a person and they like sign one of your cards and you get enough signatures, you get to unlock these artifacts. So like it's a social experience to play this game. I'm not.
I don't see that ever happening. It's just.
I mean, there's so many games out there, guys, and there's apps like this game is competing with your phone.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not going to get 5 signatures. Maybe Liz sign my game. Maybe Mike Delisio from Solo Mode Games will sign it too. That's about it. That's all I can hope for. So
we'll play at PAX. I gotta get this out again because everybody's like, you gotta love this game, and I'm just like, I don't know, I just don't get it yet. But I have not played it nearly as much. Like I'm not doing the review here. I'm just saying my impressions. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, like I've played it a decent amount. Like I'm gonna finish off I think I've beaten like 4 or 5 of the bosses at this point, and taken some time with them. So I am in but I can't travel with it, and I can't do some of the things that I would want to do with a Palm game. And that's kind of a problem, but it's a fun experience. It's a wonky experience. And I really like that. The whole WizKids has Zev now, and Zev wants these quirky games. Good. Bring them on.
Yeah. That's right.
It just happens to have that little overhead problem, which, it's, you could do whatever you need to do with that. All right. I'm looking at the time and looks like we have time for one more game, a very small game, card-based game called the Draugr. The Draugr is by Todd Sanders. He should be known to a lot of you folks. You may have played a lot of his games, like Mr. Cabbage Head's Carding Game. I believe he also has a detective game coming soon. Solitaire Print and Play veteran and friend of Anthony, or at least a fellow Pittsburghian who go to the same shop. So in the Draugr, which by the way is available on BGG Store exclusively, or there is an app that you can purchase. But in this game, it is a very simple game, very few components. It's just cards. So the main 15 cards are the town, and you are an adventurer trying to protect the town from the other 6 cards on the outside of those 15 cards, which represent the Draugr. So the Draugr are their monsters, and every turn they are going to launch corruption at all of the town, and they're going to basically do the symbol matching thing where, you know, if you draw and you pull a symbol, anything with a symbol in that row gets corruption. If too many town faces get 4 corruption or more, then you're going to lose. So that's kind of the short-term end of the game. The long-term end of the game is that you have to kill the Draugr. So you have to go around spaces, you have to gather holy water, you have to gather stakes. And you're moving, like there's a spatial movement, so you can't just like pick any space. You walk to the different places, the foundry, the nunnery, the town center, all that kind of thing. You're building up your stakes, you're building up your holy water, and you're going to kill each of the Draugr, hopefully, before they corrupt the land. So the draw here is the spatial movement, you know, kind of walking around and activating the spaces as you go. And that key kind of element of a lot of co-op solo games, which is that balance between short-term and long-term. Do I save up resources? Do I save up holy water and stakes so that I can go attack these Draugr? Or, oh my god, my village is burning down and it needs to be protected from corruption right now. So that affects your choice here and there. It's definitely one of those games where you always feel like you're behind. You always feel like you're losing. This is not a happy game at all. I got that very tense, stressful feeling of like, okay, I'm not going to do well in this game, and then I eke one out. It's one of those types of games. Anthony, you are a person who likes these solo games. You ordered it yourself. I know you haven't had a chance to play it, but is that something that appeals to you? It sounds like you might have a lot of fun with.
Yeah, I mean, it captured my attention right away, and that's why I ordered 2 copies on accident.
Oops.
That's how you got
it. Thank you, man. Thank you.
I clicked that button twice on BGG. But yeah, no, it's definitely right up my alley, and it's definitely something I want to give a shot. Unfortunately, came in, a couple weeks before the GenCon haul, so I haven't had a chance to play yet, but it's on my list.
Mm-hmm. And it's an app. It's only $2. So, it's a game that if you like, I think that's a kind of a theme of the episode, right? None of these are like staple games. Like none of these are games that you must play. Like if you like playing a game while you're online at a con, play Palm Island. If you want to teach people how to do Euro stuff, do Istanbul the dice game. In this particular game, it's if you like that kind of, short-term, long-term, I need to protect my land from corruption, but then I need to also kind of make progress towards killing these Draugr, and this with the spatial movement stuff. I think it's a really fun, interesting puzzle that you kind of work through slowly. This game doesn't have like huge pop moments. It's just like you grind and you grind and you grind, and eventually you kind of chop the tree down, and then you can kind of move forward that way. And the art style is really cool. I mean, it's a fun little game. I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but it is definitely a little fun. I wanted to give it a little bit of pub because our friend Todd is a great friend to the solo community. So go check that one out. That is the Draugr, and that is our episode.
All right, guys. That is a whole bunch of stuff. Some light filler games to get you going as we start rolling through our Gen Con reviews. That is everything for this week, though. So make sure you check us out on all the various places that we hang out. On Facebook, a group on there. You can find us on Twitter at ENGN_podcast. On the website, everynightitsgamenight.com. Hop in. Let us know what you think. If you've played any of these games, let us know. Or if there's other games, fillers, roll and writes, anything like that came out recently that you think we should be talking about, give us a shout out. But for this week, that's going to be everything. So until next time, go ahead and grab a solo game off the shelf and let's make every night game night.
Later, everybody.